This is Mojo on his new blanket. The jumpers I got from Hannah for my birthday, at the time there was an offer on if you spent more than a certain amount you got a free throw fleece basically, and I thought, given that this is a leather sofa which is basically cold to the touch, I thought we'll put it down and see if Mojo likes it to sleep on. Got a job to get him off of it now. Anyway, that's not what this video is about. Hi, this is Roger, thanks for dropping by. Sunday chat today is going to be a bit of a mix. We're going to start off with the Orchid Society meeting yesterday. I forgot to take my camera, so I didn't film the plants that were on display, but it was a different meeting this time, so those plants were not the main attraction. The main attraction basically was our president that passed away not that long ago, and several people have been working really hard to recover what was left of his collection that hadn't already died or was too far gone to recover. So work's been done to get the bugs off of them, to repot them, tidy them up, so that they were in a position to be passed on to society members, which was to fulfill his wishes. And the idea was that anybody who had a plant made a donation. They were split into two groups, donations of £5 to £10 as people saw fit, more if they felt obliged, or I think it was either 10 to 15 or 10 to 20 for the better, larger plants, shall we say. And basically we had over £500 donated for those plants, which will go to a charity of his choice. His wife stood up at the beginning and described the charity and the work that it does and everything, so that people knew what they were donating to, and that all went off nicely. All went off well. There were some plants left over, which the other Orchid Society that I used to belong to, the Bournemouth Orchid Society, they've agreed that anything left over can go down to their next meeting and see if they can be passed on at that point, you know, for donations again, sort of thing. So that's been arranged. My friend who grows the cymbidiums left me a comment and said, would I bring Hannah's plant along to the meeting yesterday and he'll have a look at it and treat it. And I think I mentioned that I'd be very reluctant for him to take it back and mix it in with his collection because I'm confident it's virused. Anyway, I said to him, I've got that plant in the car, do you want to come and take a look? Take a look. And he got his sprayer out and everything ready to treat it. He got within about 4 foot of the car and he said, that's virused, I'm not coming near that. And I just sort of looked at him and said, well, that's what I said, you know. So yes, it's virused, and now agreed by what I would call an expert. So it stays in the garden. It's difficult to know what to do at the moment, but I will put the camera on it later on in this video, so you can actually have a look. For people who've never seen what the mosaic virus looks like, it can inhabit relatively frequently. I won't say it's a rare occurrence, but in cymbidiums and oncidiums and oncidium intergenerics, that's where it finds its most resting place. It's not very often found in most of the other genera, I must admit. It's mainly oncidium types and the cymbidiums, unfortunately. And I'll state right at the beginning, there is no cure for a virus. So it doesn't matter how many weird and wonderful concoctions you can think of, it is not curable. That doesn't mean to say that the plant is a write-off. Some plants can live with the virus and still, I won't say thrive, but still sort of do okay. They can still come into bloom, they can still push up new growths and roots. But if you've got a plant with a virus, it is possible to spread it to other plants. Now, virus is mainly spread through damaged tissue, so a lot of the time it's our fault, because we've been trimming a plant, cutting some dead brown tips off of a leaf, trimming some roots when we repot, dividing a plant, and then using those tools on another plant without sterilising them. It's our fault, we did that, yeah? And that's the most common way of a virus spreading. It is rare, and I think some people are even guessing that it can spread through reusing water. It's highly unlikely. It's more likely that the reused water has washed off some of the virus from a damaged plant and then watered it into another plant that has some damaged tissue so that it gains entry. It's more likely to be that rather than just the fact that you shared water. So yeah, anyway, that's that. We'll have a look at the plant later. It's difficult to know what to do. As I said, it's got flower spikes. And potentially we have another plant that might have a virus as well. It's showing a few signs in a few places. I've now separated it away from the others, so we shall see. If that's confirmed, I might have to start throwing these plants out. We shall see. Unfortunately, you can get a plant into your collection that you've bought that looks perfectly healthy, there's absolutely nothing wrong with it, and then at a later stage you start seeing the signs on the leaves and it can progressively get worse, and if the signs are then on the new growths as they push on, then it sort of confirms the fact. So it's not necessarily you that's spreading it in your collection. You could have bought a plant in that didn't show any signs at the time. So, you know, it's there, it's around. It's like Fusarium, you know, that is around, and I would imagine most people who've got a large private collection have probably got one or two infected plants, and again, it can live in a plant for a long time and not show, and then under certain conditions, mainly stress after a repot or something, it shows its, you know, rears its ugly head. So these things we have to live with. But yes, that plant sale went well, and all the money goes to a charity. So it's not. As far as my books are concerned, as treasurer, it comes in one door and goes straight out another one. It's just documented in passing. And it's just done. I've just done it as a total. I don't need to know who donated what. That's none of my business. So it doesn't need documenting. Yeah, so that's that. The talk was about the effects on orchids that climate change can have, specifically aimed at the UK. And obviously, you know, like it was on the news. Some places haven't had any sunshine for a fortnight. You know, they were counting how much sunshine they'd had in minutes over a 14-day period. It's crazy. It's just dull. Just don't see the sun. Apparently, this just overcast weather is going to blow away overnight, and we might get a sunny day tomorrow. Everybody would be putting their heavy shades on because they're not used to the bright light. But yeah, it's been strange, and this is one of the things with climate change. One of the things that is predicted is we will get a lot more wet weather, and more extremes of that. Well, wet weather in the UK means no sunshine, which means dull, which means light levels are down for a start, and then you get it's going to be warmer. Well, that's, you know, yes, which means people who grow the cool and cold growers are not going to be able to get those lower temperatures. You know, it's the frequency of frost is becoming less and less. The frequency of snow, at least down this half of the country, is becoming less and less. So things that need to chill right down, it's going to be more difficult to enable them to happen. And what I'd have liked to have seen in the talk is the effect on the orchids in the wild, what we call our tropical orchids. And one thing that is worrying for me is the cloud forests are dependent on the warm, moist air rising up the mountainsides and turning to mist and fog and keeping those cloud forests cool and damp and misty and foggy. Well, if it gets much warmer, it'll get warmer higher up. They may not dump that moisture at the same levels. That air may need to get higher up to do that. That could be the end of some of the cloud forests. They may no longer be cloud forests. Some of those might disappear altogether. Yeah, so it's that sort of thing. The orchids that grow in the much warmer places, like parts of Mexico and things like that, there's a limit to how much heat they'll tolerate. Yeah, so again, I'd like to have seen a bit of that included, but it wasn't. Basically, our president that's passed away did most of that presentation. Well, obviously wasn't able to do the presentation, so somebody else took it on, finished it off sort of thing, and presented it on his behalf. So that's how it took place. So it included what he wanted it to be. So that's that. Otherwise eventful meeting, basically. The new projector that I bought, most people didn't notice, but I spent a long time investigating projectors, the different types, what we could afford, and ended up choosing one. And I set it up with the laptop, and Peter put his presentation in on one of those little stick things. And we got it all working, and it was sitting there with his start screen projected up onto the screen. And he did his presentation, and nobody noticed that we didn't have to pull the curtains and turn the lights off, because the projector is so bright. It was clear, crystal clear, in daytime, in daylight. Well, that's what I went for. Also, I went for a short throw projector, which means the projector itself can be a lot closer to the screen, which means the chairs can come forward quite a bit more. Yeah? So people are closer in to where the screen is. And also closer to the speaker. So, it worked well, and as I said, there's a lot of people who didn't notice. It wasn't until the end that Lynn looked round and thought, we didn't turn the lights off. So it's done its job. I think people were pleased with that, which is good. And I've decided that lives here with me, along with the Society's laptop, in a dry cupboard, that's subject to normal house heat. The storage area at the hall where we have our meetings is cold and damp, and for more delicate electronic equipment that is not an ideal storage place. Low temperatures like that with damp air are not going to do them any good, so that will stay with me along with the laptop. And if there are times when it's needed elsewhere, then we make arrangements. There's a hint that we might change where we have our meetings, because it's getting expensive and it's going up again in January, and Lynn's always conscious of the overall cost for the society, which is fair enough. So we shall see. That'll have to be discussed at meetings, and might even have to be an AGM item to alter something like that. Although we moved our show to a different place without all that fuss. We just did it, you can either come along or not, two choices. Right, so that was that. I asked for ideas for the Sunday chat. One of the ideas, I'm not going to do it today. It means moving far too many plants, and I'm not prepared because I was out all day yesterday. But basically somebody said, could I go over, the zygos? Well, they said zygo, perhaps they don't know, I've now got 3. Including a species, relatively recent acquisition, but 2 hybrids and a species, one named, one not, although we're pretty sure what it is. So I will do that another time. That might even get saved up for next weekend. I've got no appointments this week and nothing on the coming weekend, so I've just got a normal sort of week where I can do as I please. One of the things I'm going to have to do, it's only dawned on me today while I was thinking about the fact that we've had this dull, dreary weather for so long, and it suddenly dawned on me during that long period of dull, dreary weather we haven't actually had any rain. So all the stuff in the garden hasn't actually had any water. It's had damp air, So for the normal plants planted in the ground, it's not a worry. And for my deciduous bonsai, it's not a worry, they're becoming dormant. They don't really need water, but my conifers are still growing. They don't stop growing in the winter, they just slow down. And for those to totally dry out wouldn't do them any good at all. So we might have to get the watering can out. It's a thing in winter time. But you get dry periods in winter, same as you get wet periods in summer. We all know about them this year. It's going to go down, it looks like, okay, the year hasn't finished yet, but the statistics that we've got so far, 2024 is going to be the warmest year ever on record. And in some places in the UK, certainly, it's also been the wettest. So there you go. If proof was wanted, there it is. 2024 is your starting point. So that's that. One of the things we decided, which other societies do, I know, is to have an advice table at the meetings where, you know, somebody who knows a lot about what they're talking about, nobody knows everything, do they, is there for questions and possibly for people to bring in problem plants and discuss. So we're gonna resurrect that. I've got a feeling that was done a long time ago. It hasn't been done at this society since I've been there. It happened at the other society where I was a member, but I often felt sorry for the person manning that table. It's a very lonely spot because it's normally up the back of the hall, out of the way, because obviously it can be a distraction, you know, people talking and that. And they're often just sat there on their own and nobody comes up and talks to them. But we'll try it and see how it goes. And we have got quite a lot of new members and quite a lot of those are beginners. So, you know, it may be worthwhile. But that's that. It is quite a good thing to have at an Orchid Society. Even if you've got a majority of experienced growers, there's still some that aren't. Most of the time you can just go up to somebody on the committee or somebody whose face is at the front and just go up to them and say, I want to talk to somebody about so-and-so, so-and-so. Who's the best person to talk to? And they'll just point you at somebody who can help them. And that could be a different person depending on the question. So, but that help and advice needs to be available at societies. Otherwise people can feel left out at best, shut out at worst. Because societies can get very cliquey. I've experienced that in the past, you know, where little huddles of people group together, and if you try and go up and join the conversation, they like look at you. Yes, what do you want? No, don't want any of that nonsense. So that's that. What's going to be going on out here this week is not much. Oh, I got my medication sorted. Spent a long time explaining to them there wasn't anything wrong with their software, but it was being used wrong. Not wrong, but somebody who did something on the software didn't really understand what they were doing. And they've got round the problem. They haven't fixed it. I've gone in and had a look and seen what they've done, and they have made some changes, but they've changed the wrong bit. Nonetheless, at my end, you know, getting my tablets will now be okay, at least for the next time. I think after that it's going to screw up again. I'll have to explain again what they need to change. I think the best thing they could do is the tablets that keep getting messed about is actually delete the prescription, as though I don't need it anymore, just wipe it and then reset it, start again and do it properly this time. But nonetheless, I have the tablets I need, and I've reordered the others that I'm not running out of yet, but those were available to reorder, so I've done that. And first thing this week, first couple of days, I should get a top up of the ones I've now got, which will take me past that magic date, which is the problem. It's the earliest reorder date that's the problem, not the amount of tablets. Now they've altered the amount of tablets. Well, indirectly that should get me past the earliest reorder date, but that's not the bit that's wrong. They're out of step. You know, the twice a day come in batches of 56, yeah, and the others come in batches of 28. But unfortunately, when they first ordered them, they set up both as 56, and that's the bit that's the problem. That 56 moves forward 2 months on one a day, and the earliest reorder date is therefore beyond the tablets that I get issued with. So they fixed the wrong thing. But quite honestly, that's the training that's the problem. You know, the software works, it fundamentally works if you put the right information in. So it's the training that's not, you know, whoever did the training probably doesn't understand it perhaps as well as they should. Anyway, so that's that. I should, you know, the tablets should be available and they should continue. So the hassle's gone away at least for a while. So that's that. My weight loss is relapsed. I've actually gone up a bit, but then I have had some strange days, you know, where I've had meals out. I mean, it's like yesterday. I had my normal breakfast, but then, you know, lunch was sandwiches because I'm out, you know, and then two giant pieces of cake. We had a lovely slice of apple cake and then a lovely slice of chocolate cake, which was chocolate cake with chocolate cream with chocolate on. Not a lot of good if you don't like chocolate. So we had 2 big pieces of cake, and when I got home, I didn't have a meal. I had a little pack of cheesy biscuits and half a glass of wine. Tried not to fall asleep on the settee. Yeah, I get tired with the meetings. As I say, you've got to get everything ready. You know, I've got all the stuff that the treasurer has to take, notes, bank account details, laptop, projector, box of stuff with, you know, things for handouts and things like that. All that has to be got ready. It has to be taken out and loaded into the car. When I get there, it has to come out of the car and go in. Then it has to be set up. Then I have to man the treasurer's table for people who want to pay. And it was the Christmas do money day where everybody wants to pay for their Christmas lunch that we're going to have. So there was a lot of people coming to pay in money. It's all got to be recorded and documented. Then you got to pack it all up, take it out, load it in the car, get back here, unload it all and bring it all in here. And at the end of the day, I'm knackered. Totally. So yeah, lazy evening. And as I say, this morning I got up at silly o'clock as usual. Not much to do on my laptop because obviously it was a video that rolled over. So you know, it's like the second day of the video, so not too many comments to look at. Well, there was one comment with lots of little bits. One of the bits was, I went to a friend's with my guitars a while ago, how did that go? Well, it sort of went okay, but because I don't play much now, I can't play for long on a 6-string without my fingers getting sore. My friend has recently had heart surgery, so he can't even put his guitar on because it's too heavy around his neck with the, you know, with all the ribs beaten to pieces or cut in half or whatever. So it was mainly playing around with the sounds on his machine thing that he's got, which is 6-string guitarists in rock bands, they tend to have a floor full of foot pedals. You know, they're always stamping on something. It's not cockroaches, it's switches on the floor for different sounds and different effects. And he's got a box that mimics all of those in one box. So we were just sort of playing with all the different sounds and effects and things like that. We didn't really do much else. He couldn't put his guitar on, sort of thing, and I hadn't played for so long my fingers were getting sore just playing around like that. I had to play on my bass through his gadget with all the different effects and sounds, because that I can play because the strings are much thicker, and so I can play that for quite a while now. It's just trying to remember how it works and which way up it goes, you know, when you don't play much. I'm hoping to get back into that, I must admit. But for me to be able to play a 6-string well enough to be able to do something with it, I'm probably going to have to bring the guitar down here into the lounge and force myself to pick it up and play it for as long as I can every single day. Doesn't matter what I play, it's irrelevant. But if I don't harden up the tips of my fingers, I'm never going to be able to do much because they're all soft and wussy now, you know. When I used to play regular, I didn't even have fingerprints. I had pads. You know, like cat pads. I had pads on the end of my fingers, like leather. That's all gone now. You know, it's all soft and wussy. Right, so that was that. There was another question. Did I have a type of fish, and have I ever had fish? I did have a cold water fish tank around the other place a long time ago. I got fed up with cleaning it, so effectively I sold it with the fish, the lot. Plants, fish, you know, pebbles, take it away, filter thing, just got rid of the lot because I was fed up with cleaning it. It just really annoyed me that it just would not stay clean. So yes, that was that. What was the other bit of the question? Oh yeah, what am I cooking this week? Lots of non-orchid things going on here. I tend to eat probably 5 days a week. Sometimes 6 is fish, but it varies. Sometimes it's pan-fried fish. Sometimes that's thawed out from the freezer. Sometimes it's fresh if I've just had a shopping delivery. The other types of fish are fish in breadcrumbs that come out the freezer. They go in the halogen oven to cook. So that it's not really cooking, you just put them in there and take them out when they're done and put them on a plate. With some vegetables. Tonight I've got a duck breast, which I will pan fry with some vegetables, so something a bit different. Because I didn't really have anything yesterday, so today's a bit of a treat. And I will have some wine tonight. So I don't have wine as often as I used to now. So that'll be a nice meal to do. Not a lot of preparation really. But yeah, that will be very slowly pan fried, very slowly to try and render the fat. Browned first initially, you know, almost searing hot. Turn it, get the sides done, get some colour on it, and then turn the heat right down and just let it sit there for 20 minutes, half an hour sort of thing. And then it must have a little rest at the end as well, otherwise duck breast can be tough. If you cook it wrong and it's tough, then you probably never get it again. If you cook it right, it's beautiful. So we will give that a go. We actually had, last year for our Christmas dinner, Hannah and I, we actually had duck legs instead of chicken. We normally have a chicken. And at the moment, that's the only time of year my oven actually gets used, my normal oven. I don't mean my halogen oven, I use that most days. But the big oven only gets used at Christmas because there's some roast meat to do of some description, and then we've got the roast vegetables, and because it's a Christmas dinner we do them properly, you know, with fresh vegetables in trays and everything, with oil and whatnot and herbs and garlic and things, you know, we sort of, and because oven's expensive to use. It just seems so wasteful that you use 10-15 minutes of electricity just getting it up to temperature. If it was a gas oven, that would be like 2 minutes, but it's not, it's electric. But with the halogen oven, it's got a huge fan in it, it's got the radiant heat, so it works like a grill and an oven combined, and when you turn it on, within 10 seconds it's up to temperature. The heater just comes straight on, and that's it, and the fan moves that heat around, so it's a very fast and very efficient way to cook. Don't like wasting electric. It's too expensive. That's something else I've got to do as well. My contract with my current energy supplier comes to an end second week in December. It coincides with when I actually moved in, or thereabouts. And they are, all of their options that they've got available for me to stay with them now contractually say I must have a smart meter, and I don't want one, so I phoned up and said, is there any way that, you know, I said no, they've decided to go that way. The guy on the phone said, I don't agree with it because quite a few people are leaving us as a consequence, but they get a kickback from the government. So basically, no, you can't. If you sign up for any of the contracts, you know, after the end of this one, then you are obliged to have a smart meter. So I'm now looking around for those energy suppliers that offer, you know, energy without compulsory smart meters, so that I can not have one. I don't want one, there's too many problems with them. And they don't, you know, they say, oh, they'll save you money. No, they won't. They'll just show you what you use. If you then make decisions based on that, fair enough. But why can't you make those decisions without seeing what you use? Why don't you know what you use? You've got a fridge and a freezer. They're on constantly. It might even be one unit, but yeah. Well, what are you going to do? Turn them off at night or something? That'd be daft. I mean, the only thing I've changed is I've got a bank of plugs in there, which has got everything in it. There's 6 plugs on the go there, and nearly all of the units that are plugged in there have a standby function. Well, when I go to bed, I turn that off. Why am I leaving, my internet hub on and not using it overnight, am I? Why do I need the TV and the sound system on standby? So I just shut the lot off when I go to bed now, or if I go out for the day, I just turn it all off. Turn it on when I get up. I'm sure that's only saving pennies, but it's saving money that I don't need to spend, if you see what I mean. So little things like that. I mean, apart from that, I never leave lights on in a room I'm not in. If I go out in the kitchen in the evening to do something, I turn the light on, I turn it off when I come out. So I don't waste electricity. And certainly the gas, is for the boiler for me to keep warm, and also the cooking hob, where I do that type of cooking. So I don't waste energy. I'd use as little as I can, because it's one of the most expensive items in the list of bills that you have to pay. So along with the council tax, of course, where we donate money to the local authority for all our local services, half of which we don't get or are very poor, but you don't get a choice. It's taken away from you. So, well, you can not pay, and then you'll end up in court and possibly even thrown out of your house. Anyway, I'm apologising because it may have offended, but my comments and thoughts on what's been going on in the States should have been kept to myself, really. So if anybody got offended with some of my thoughts, then, well, tough first. Offence is taken, not given. I was only giving my opinion based on the information I've got available. But it is something I will say, that the view of the people that live there is not the view of the whole of the rest of the world looking in on it. Now, if you are outside like me looking in on it, I'm totally dependent on the various forms of media telling me and showing me. Yeah? Our media is relatively reliable. It is biased in some cases. I don't think it's as bent as a it's an expression Americans won't get, but it's bent as a 9-bob note. There's no such thing, basically. Somebody tries to give you one, it's obviously a forgery because there's no such thing. But yeah, I appreciate that media in some countries is poor, pretty lousy, and downright misleading in some cases. Of course, there are countries where there just as well not be any, because the only media they've got is what the state tells that company they can say. So there is no free speech, there is no free thought. We should at least be grateful we've got that to a degree. So we'll leave that then. What else? I don't think there is much else today. The workload in here, the watering frequency is right down now. We're possibly going to get lower temperatures now, so I've still got another degree to knock off the thermostat in here. Still going down one more, but I'm waiting till we get into December. December, January and February are normally our coldest 3 months. I want this, I want to keep the heating as low as I dare. So that's that. Humidity, the dehumidifier is on permanently now. It cuts in and out when it thinks it's necessary, and I have to empty the tank every couple of days, otherwise if the tank fills up, it just turns itself off and a little light comes on. If you're there, it beeps a couple of times, but it doesn't keep beeping, it just does it once and then it stops. So if you don't notice that it's full, then it just stops working. But that's doing its thing. That doesn't use too much power, but the alternative is, that overnight we'll be up near 100% humidity. Things will start getting condensation on them. you know, and that can turn into water droplets that can run down into leaf joints at the lowest temperatures I've got overnight. This is not ideal, so I'm happy to fund that to keep the humidity at a sensible level. That's well worth doing. Time must be getting on because that's nearly stone cold. Oh, and thanks to whoever it was, it might have been more than one person actually, the Miltoniopsis that was unnamed that I've actually said is Her Alexander, yes and no. The actual registered name of that plant is Her Alexandrae, not der, and it's all one word. Now that sounds to me like a typo on whoever filled the form in. You know, like her is Mr, German for Mr, as far as I know, and then you would have somebody's surname, wouldn't you? Like me, I'm Mr. Frampton, that's my name. Well, it's not all one word, is it? So I think somebody might have mistyped that on the form to make it all one word, and then somebody just put it in the system, you know. But on the RHS website and on Orchid Roots, it is actually all one word and it ends with RE, not ER. So I've corrected my notes. Thanks for that, whoever told me. I didn't know that. And certainly the previous one I had a tag on it when I bought it, and it had it as two separate words with ER on the end. So that would probably have come from the EU somewhere. So that's another name that's correct in my notes that wasn't before. We like that, you know. I didn't just take it as read, I did actually look it up. Right, another question, it might have been the same person. Can I get hold of, and what do I think about using lava rock? Well, yes, I can get hold of it. I've got a bag full of it down in the shed. My bag full came as big lumps, but I mean, you can hit it with a hammer and make whatever lump size you like, including quite small. Personally, I don't like it. I prefer growing in organic stuff. If I wanted to go in organic, I would probably go with stones. In other words, something that does not hold any water whatsoever. It can be wet, the surface, but it doesn't soak anything in. And that would be halfway between the things like leca and lava rock that hold a lot of moisture. They actually suck it in, and in doing so they suck in nutrients, which if the plant doesn't use them are still there when the next lot gets sucked in, and there can be quite a build-up. So flushing becomes much more important. Bark for me is halfway between the stones and something like leca, because yes, it absorbs a bit but not much, and it's only when it starts getting old and begins to break down and everything that it then for me holds too much. That's my repotting point, when it starts to stay wet longer than I want it. But it's catch-22. I was having a little comment chat with Insa. Now he's got a lot more heat than I've got, yeah, and also high humidity to go with it. He's thinking of getting a dehumidifier, I believe, to deal with that. But you've got to sort of stop and think about, I've completely lost track of what I was going to say. I'm going to leave that in. Most people will edit that out. I might have to talk about something else till it comes back to me. Where were we going? What were we talking about? No, it's gone. Oh well, it happens. I'm sure there'll be people watching the video shouting at me, telling me what I was talking about. I can't hear you. Like shouting at the telly, isn't it? Yeah, it may come back. It may not. I'm tired. Oh, he's tired. Well, yeah, I am. A long day yesterday. So, it might have been, although I have only just thought of this, is that Insa grows in his home. He can't get cool temperatures. Apart from opening the window, and that just lets bugs in and even more humidity, and it's not ideal. But yeah, whereas I can get cool temperatures quite easily, Ian said can't. So, you know, he's got certain plants that could do with a chill down in the winter. Well, you know, that's it. And that is one of the downsides of growing in the home. But it's like I've always said, you know, get plants that are going to work in the environment you've got. And it's like some of the resting dendrobiums that need that chill, they need to chill down, they need to dry out, and they need the brightest light possible. Yeah, well, if you've only got north facing windows, northern hemisphere, yeah, you're not going to get the brightest light possible for a start. It is the brightest light you can provide, but it probably isn't enough to get a good blooming. And if it's in your home, it probably isn't going to get cold enough for them. I mean, one of the items discussed yesterday to do with climate change was the Dendrobium kingianum, the Australian one. That's a strange orchid, that is. It's hard as nails. It's as sturdy as old boots. Because it comes from almost tropical conditions. This is East Coast Australia, down that side. And it can be found at quite low levels, and it can be found halfway up a mountain. And it's often found on rocks. I think its nickname is the rock orchid. But, you know, it can go down to 5 degrees in the winter and be sat in 32, 34 degrees in full sun in summer, and it survives. So, but many people grow that in the UK and don't get it to bloom, or get very poor blooming on it. It's just not cold enough. In the winter, that needs to go down below 10 degrees if possible, heading down, you know, 8, 7, even 6. And that'll bloom it. If you can do that through December, January into February, it'll bloom its head off. Yeah. But if you can't, and if you grow in the home, it's highly unlikely you can do that. Your pipes will freeze. You know, so it wouldn't be an ideal thing to have. Even me, if I had one of those, I'm not going to be able to chill that down that much. I'd have too many other plants keel over because it would be too cold for them. So I don't want one, even though the scent, the fragrance is gorgeous, and when they're in a mass blooming, they're quite a stunning article to have. I've got a friend in Bournemouth Orchid Society that's got a huge specimen plant. Where else have I seen one? Ed's Orchids, but it's not Ed's plant, it's the other person he goes to visit and has a look around the greenhouse, Sheila. It's in her greenhouse, I believe. Or it might be Ed's and he leaves it outside in the greenhouse when everything else comes in the house, but I've seen it on his videos as well, and that blooms well as well. So yeah, they are around in this country, but if I had an outside greenhouse, as long as I had a thermostat to keep it frost free, you know, 5, 6 degrees, then I could possibly have some of those type of orchids. But I haven't, so I won't. That's that. Right, I'm going to leave it at that. I'm just going to turn the camera around and we'll have a look at this Cymbidium that lives in the garden now. It's taken a trip out. What I would call a Cymbidium expert has had a look at it, confirmed its virus. I didn't really need that confirmation, but I thought we'll go for it anyway. And several other people were invited to come out and have a look at it on the back seat of the car, so that they've now seen what this virus looks like. Because otherwise you're stuck with pictures, and it's never the same as seeing something in real life. You get the scale, you get the size, yeah, all that sort of thing is not necessarily visible in a picture. So we'll just have a quick look at that, and then we'll call it a day. I'll get the camera down, wobbly for a bit. I'm not going to bother shutting it down. Well, I managed to turn it off anyway. Just as well have shut it down, hadn't I? Right, so this is the plant. This is what, a close-up, with my hand to get the scale, this is what the mosaic virus looks like. Yeah? Softer version here, that's the underside of a leaf. Yeah? That looks a bit more mottled in places. You do tend to get the black spots with it as well, like this, because basically the cells are being destroyed, and the black spots are usually where the cell has completely collapsed and it's dead. Yeah, so that's what it looks like, And you have to bear in mind, if we spin the plant round, this is this year's growth. So this is the new growth. Yeah? And it's just as bad. The theory was that if the new growth came up clean, we might be able to grow it out and it may not be a virus. But we have 2 flower spikes. Now if it stays out in the garden, those flower spikes are probably going to get caught with the cold and will probably collapse. So we've got a decision to make now. Where it is now, it could stay there, and I just have to move it every time I need to use my bench. Now I'm using my bench not that often this time of year. You know, I mean, well, I'm watering so infrequently that it could sit there a week or more at a time. And when I want to water something, all I've got to do is pick it up and put it on the floor somewhere, and then put it back where it is. It's miles away from any other plants, not touching anything. So we could do that. We could accommodate it in here while we enjoy the blooms. So I'm going to have a think about that. But the main thing is that is a virus. Now I've touched it now, so I need to go careful what else I touch. But I will show you the other Cymbidium that might be infected as well. Now you've seen that. That is what the virus looks like in quite a badly infected plant. But the plant's not dying. It's grown a really good strong new growth this year out in the garden, and now it's pushing up 2 flower spikes. The plant's not dying. May not be doing as well as it should do, but it's not dying, not yet. And this is the other one. As I say, I'm not going to touch it, but this one has got, this is a new growth we're looking at. Whereas the old plant isn't too bad, I think this one has got it as well. I'm reasonably certain. So we might have to dump that, which is, again, it's a pity. It's got a lovely spike coming. But see now, if I can assure myself that that is virus, that one is virused, then that can go over on the bench with its partner. Because it can't spread between the 2 plants if they're both infected, can it? So we might just have to have a separate area, and that would also get it away from these Cymbidiums. It's not that close really, it's on the bottom shelf. My little miniature is right up the other end of the shelf, and the geraniums are in between. All the others are on the top shelf. So it is separate, and I water it separately. So we'll have to have a think, but you know, it's something that's around. I mean, all the other plants look good. There's no sign of that patterning on any of the other plants. But somebody did say when I was pointing it out that when these Cymbidiums came back in, one of them had the brown scale on it. Well, biting insects will spread a virus. Yeah, they suck up the juices from the leaves, and if they then go and bite into another plant, they can spread a virus. So, you know, if the virus is in here and the plants are anywhere near each other, there is a possibility of it spreading that way. So you do have to go careful. Most people would say if there's any sign of a virus, take it outside and burn it. Just don't take the risk. But you know, what if it's a plant with serious sentimental value that you have no chance of replacing? You know, you have to try, don't you? But you do take a risk. I'll always say that. By these 2 plants existing inside my grow room, there is a risk. Yeah, there's a lot of Oncidium types in here, and my Cymbidium collection. All are vulnerable, you know, if they're in the same room. There's a risk. Lots of people have said, I don't agree with you sharing water for your plants. Well, have a look round. Have a look round and see how many, including one of the top YouTubers over in the States, one of the most popular YouTubers that everybody loves to love, and have a look and see how he waters. Quite frequently there is a tub of water with 5 or 6 plants stood in it. That's sharing water. And that's sharing water different to me, because that's sharing water, those plants get taken out, more plants get put in. So a lot more plants are going through that water. Whereas I have a relatively small amount of water and I pour it through a few pots until it runs out. And then I put some fresh in. So I'm only sharing a given amount of water with a few plants each time. And I don't believe I've had any problems as a consequence directly of that. And I can't afford to pay for the amount of RO water I would need for each plant to have its own water. And what would I do with the wastewater? Where's that all going to go? I don't like wasting water. It's just not on. It's a resource. Shouldn't be wasting it. So anyway, that'll do for today. What was I going to say? Cheeky blackbird out there. The buds on this are starting to show now. I keep saying you're gonna be impressed when it comes out, because the blooms are pretty good. But I haven't seen them for so long. They might not be. I might be, man speak with forked tongue and all that. But we can now clearly see we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, at least 5 buds on here, and they are starting to separate. So we will have blooms on there in the future. I don't know how long, because it hasn't bloomed for so long. I've forgotten. This one here has just dropped one on the floor down there, so it's down to 1 bloom. But the spike that it came off of has got another bud, and we've still got the other spike with 1 bloom out and another bud to come. So we've still got 2 blooms to come on this orchid, and that's quite a good blooming from the latest 2 new growths. And those 2 new growths have made the plant half as big again. So hopefully we'll get at least 2 more new growths after these 2 have matured. So we'll see how we do. And there are other coleogyny buds lurking in the background as well, which as soon as they come into flower, we'll have a look at those. And in my everything in bud, spike and bloom, we went straight past Hibiki. But then again, I had done a spotlight on that the previous Sunday. So, but yeah, we forgot Hibiki. Completely went straight past it. Didn't even stop. Didn't even pause. And the blooms are well worth stopping on. It's a lovely combination of colours, and they're quite intense. They're not wishy-washy and pastel shades. These are good bright colours. It's a good bloom. And there was somebody had one of a hibiki at the Orchid Society yesterday, and one of my friends said, "Have you seen that hibiki? It's a really good plant. Look at the size of the canes." And I said, "The canes on mine are half as big again, and I've got about 20." But I haven't got a very good blooming for that plant. Yeah, we will have one day, but not now. Anyway, thanks for dropping by. Thanks for all the support on the channel, be it financial or watching the videos, watching some adverts, doing the thumbs up, all those nice things that help the channel plod along. It does plod along. It's not rocketing and probably never will, but I'm pleased the fact that it at least progresses. It's not going downhill, it's not going backwards, it's plodding away progressively forwards, and that's all I can ask for. And I'll see you next time. Thanks for dropping by.